Hello and welcome to my first official video on my channel. My name is Pink Paul and I will be your captain today as we will be talking about a game that has changed me in a very short amount of time called Mouthwashing. Before we start, I want to give a quick summary on the game, so spoilers ahead, you have been warned. Mouthwashing is an indie psychological horror game that came out at the end of September 2024 and was made by the Swedish video game company Wrong Organ. The game takes place on a ship called the Tolpar and consists of 5 crew members who are in the midst of a delivery job when the ship crashes into an asteroid and the crew have to do what they can to survive. As the story jumps between past and present, we learn more about what's really going on amongst the crew. The game has only 5 characters: the captain, named Curly, his co-pilot and long-term friend Jimmy, the ship mechanic, Swansea, his intern, Daisuke, and last but not least, the medic, called Anya. The first character I would like to discuss is Anya. She is the nurse and the only woman on the ship. Her design was inspired by Wendy from The Shining, played by Shelley Duvall. We get information out of order in the story, so our perspective of Anya changes drastically. To make things sound coherent, I will be looking at a story in chronological order. So if you guys are ready to jump in, we are going to start our analysis on Anya the nurse. I thought I'd make another point that this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, and I really hate the sound of my own voice. I don't know how other YouTubers do it. I guess it was something you'll get used to. So, let's get started. 7 days before the crash. The beginning of her story starts with her doing a routine psych evaluation in the medical room with Captain Curly. When she's finished, she mentions that her last evaluation is Jimmy's, but expresses reluctance towards it, as he doesn't seem to take them seriously, noted by a past comment of being sexually excited at the sight of cartoon horses. Curly offers to do it for her, which relieves her. Here we can gather that Anya shows a concern over Jimmy's behaviour very early on, due to how uncomfortable he made her feel during the previous psych evaluations. This scene takes place quite early in the game, so it does clue us in on Jimmy's true nature, but I imagine most players dismiss it as we play as Jimmy in the present before the scene takes place. 6 days before the crash. We see Anya at Curly's birthday party. She's cheering along with the rest of the crew. The mood is joyous and very pleasant. It's not until Curly breaks the news that after the trip, they are all going to be fired as the company Pony Express will be dissolved. This drastically brings the mood down, adding with a bit of tension as Jimmy starts yelling at Curly, telling everyone about their private discussion, then starts to take digs at everyone. He comments how Anya is barely a nurse, as she couldn't even get into medical school. Meanwhile, Anya is crying as she has become terrified by her financial situation, saying she has no savings. We don't know much about Anya's personal life, but this information suggests that she may have little to no family she can ask for help, and may have depleted her savings trying to get into medical school, which is why she was working with Pony Express in the first place. 2 days before the crash. It's quote-unquote nighttime, shown from the window screen. Anya is sitting in the kitchen, staring at the window screen in the main room. Curly enters and asks if she can't sleep either. She agrees and says she likes the look of the window screen, and mentions that if you look extremely closely, you can see a dead pixel in the upper right corner. Curly tries but is unable to see it. Anya says it's always in the back of her mind. She then asks how many days of transport they have left. Curly says 237 days. Anya cuts him off, saying 8 months. She then asks, why would Pony Express put locks in the medical room, but not in the sleeping quarters? Curly guesses the same reason they put them in the cockpit. Safety. This conversation is very significant as Anya is implying something serious when she's asking about the locks, but Curly doesn't seem to question any further why she's asking. I believe Anya was always aware of the potential danger Jimmy could cause, as she had been evaluating the entire crew during the trip. So I imagine she was always slightly cautious of him and the actions he made prior to hearing the bad news. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough that danger became her reality. Being unable to protect herself at her most vulnerable state or removing herself from the equation can make the situation all the more terrifying. She did bring up Jimmy's concerning comments with Curly, but the most he does is joke about it with Jimmy rather than tell him to stop making someone else uncomfortable. This will become a theme later on. One day before the crash, we find Anya kneeling on the ground in the cockpit. As Curly, we ask her where she's hidden the gun. He says she shouldn't hurt herself just because they've been let go, realising she never got a psych evaluation being the only medic amongst the crew. He continues saying if she's stressed, she should have come to him, as he would have done anything to help her. Anya replies that she's not going to hurt herself, and she couldn't get into the gun case anyway, as only Curly knows the code, so she hid the case itself to stop Jimmy getting it. She knew Curly would never allow her to use the gun for protection. She then reveals she's pregnant. Curly asks who. Anya says she told him. Curly says he'll talk to Jimmy, as they've known each other a long time. This is a very pivotal scene in the game, as we find out that Anya has been assaulted by Jimmy at an undisclosed time. It's implied that she told Curly in the previous scene, yet Curly seems to believe that Anya's stress was instead related to them being let go by the company. His inaction and potential denial were putting Anya at risk of a dangerous person who was walking freely among the ship. 0 days before the crash. Curly walks into the medical room and we see Anya on her knees hunched over. She tells Curly that she told Jimmy about the pregnancy. She says he didn't say anything that would make any difference and just walked away. She says she doesn't want him in here anymore. Curly then walks off to talk to Jimmy. This conversation would unfortunately lead to Jimmy crashing the ship, leaving Curly in critical condition and leaving Anya at the mercy of her abuser. Two months after the crash, where Jimmy is the new captain, they're discussing whether they should open the cargo hold. Anya thinks it's worth the risk of their wages if it improves their chances of survival. Anya is then in the medical room looking at Curly. She asks Jimmy if he could give Curly his pills, as she can't stand the noise from the pain. Jimmy berates her, saying people have to be worth their titles, and says he'll take care of it. When he's done, he finds her kneeling in the main room. She defends keeping Curly alive, believing a person's worst moments don't make them monsters. She mentions she still feels nauseous. At this point in the game, Anya must be going through a lot. After the crash, she managed to save Curly from near death, with only bandages, painkillers and whatever food and water they had left, all while being pregnant. It just shows how wrong Jimmy is about her medical abilities, as she was still able to save Curly, despite how little she had. And while being pregnant, the common symptoms she would have been experiencing, according to the NHS website, would have been nausea, known as morning sickness, which she mentions a lot, new food likes and dislikes, which would be very difficult with the limited food supply, cramps, similar to period cramps, bloating and the feeling of it, tiredness, sore breasts, needing to pee more frequently, and mood swings. She's going through all of this while being stuck with Jimmy and the only person who could have protected her being unable to do anything, and Swansea and Daisuke being unaware that anything is going on. The crew opens up the cargo hold and finds out they've been shipping mouthwash this entire time, which puts a dampener on their hopes for survival. Anya looks at the ingredients and notes that the sugar content offsets its use as a disinfectant. When Swansea starts drinking the mouthwash because of the ethanol content, Anya begins to panic. I imagine she panics because they don't know what's really in the mouthwash, especially when you look at the warnings on the back of the bottle and in the commercial, but also the fact that Swansea was the only person who was truly talking back to Jimmy. So when he starts drinking, that potential for protection disappears. Not that Swansea's at fault, of course, because he didn't know what was going on at this point. 3 months after the crash. Even if Anya was thinking this way, she still decided to secretly tell Swansea about Jimmy. At least that's what we can assume, as Anya was crying when Jimmy finds them. He berates her again for getting upset and asks if she's giving Curly his medication. When she says she forgot, Jimmy says he'll do it. She insists, but he cuts her off, repeating himself, clearly frustrated, thinking her incompetent. 4 months after the crash. We see the crew at their lowest. Daisuke and Swansea are drunk, and Anya is considering drinking it herself. At this point in the game, we don't know she's pregnant, so the decision is a lot more serious than we would realise on our first playthrough. She doesn't end up drinking the mouthwash, but if she did, there would have been serious consequences such as increased risk of miscarriage, premature birth, baby being underweight when born, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, which causes problems with learning and behaviour, joints, bones, muscles, and some organs, managing emotion and developing social skills, hyperactivity and impulse control, and communication. It really shows how trapped she has become at this point in the game. If it wasn't for being around Jimmy with no protection, but also being forced to carry his baby, then I can imagine she was debating how to deal with the situation. Keeping the baby would mean giving birth on the ship. Giving birth is already an incredibly painful ordeal, but when women want to have babies, they have support from multiple medical professionals. But Anya's the only medical professional, and even if Jimmy didn't help, he likely wouldn't. She would still have to make herself vulnerable with the other men, who she likely does trust but would feel uncomfortable, especially after being assaulted. Plus, if the baby was born, she would have no resources to be able to take care of them. On the other hand, trying to cause a miscarriage or give herself an abortion would be a huge risk on herself, physically and mentally. Physically, she would be in tremendous pain that could continue long after the process is done, or even disable her permanently. Mentally, having to be able to perform either action on yourself would be extremely difficult. Even after can make the person feel awful for what they have done, even if it was to save them. She says there could be more medicine in a cabinet that's been phoned up, but they might still be able to reach it without breaching a hole in the ship. Jimmy gets the axe and manages to get access to the cabinet. Anya suddenly appears behind him, almost like a jump scare, and praises him for getting the medicine. She asks if he could give Curly his meds again, as it still makes her feel nauseous. Jimmy proceeds to yell at Anya for her supposed incompetence, and he lists an impressive 5 things he's done in the past 4 months. To note that everything he lists was suggested by Anya, yet he takes all the credit. Plus, he's been complaining about her abilities as if he wasn't the one who put her in that situation in the first place. The scene alone shows how Jimmy has no respect towards Anya. He has no time for her pleads and doesn't even seem to see her as a person, or at least an adult, by how much he belittles her and talks to her as if she's useless. 5 months after the crash. Anya locks herself in the medical room, initially saying that the door is stuck. She admits that it's a lie, and Jimmy yells at her for getting upset again. Anya ignores him and says something else. She says Jimmy was right and should have done something about the pregnancy from the beginning. She believes our worst moments don't define us, and says she didn't want this either. She says that this isn't her worst moment, it's the best she'll ever make, and that she'll take care of it. The next time we see Anya, she sat down on the floor next to Curly, her hand over her stomach, and blood and sick drooling out of her mouth, her other hand on the ground, with an empty pill bottle in it, not wanting to suffer anymore. Anya took her own life. What we can gather from Anya's final monologue is that when she told Jimmy she was pregnant, he told her to do something from the beginning. She mentioned this before taking her own life. It could be implied that at the least, Jimmy told her to get rid of the baby on her own, or at the worst, he told her to kill herself at the end. It might sound like a stretch to insinuate, but considering Anya does this for more than just the pregnancy, could implicate so. Believing that a person's worst moments don't define them, this could indicate how to everyone else, Daisuke, Swansea, who didn't know at all or didn't know until the very last minute, and even Jimmy, taking her own life would be a terrible decision, but to Anya, She may have considered it being the best decision, as she would be in a terrible situation if she didn't. If she chose to stay alive, she would have been putting herself at great risk, whether she gave birth or tried to end the pregnancy. Either option would have left her in a lot of physical pain, meaning having to share the pills that were already scarce, which would have led to a difficult decision of choosing between saving Curly or saving Anya. And just to be clear, I'm not implying that it's a good thing that Anya took her own life. I think far from it. I'm just looking at it from her point of view, understanding her thought process when making this decision. She had a terrible thing happen to her, which resulted in being in a worse situation, and unfortunately, she had to pay the price. In my opinion, Anya is the most tragic character in Mouthwashing. Her story is very relatable and heartbreaking. Knowing how many have gone through something similar is horrible, and it shows the importance of the role you take when you're told about something nefarious. She has the least amount of time alive in the game, but the biggest impact on the events that unfold. Well, we are at the end of the video. Um, if you got to the end, thank you for clicking for mouthwashing, but staying for me. I really had a lot of fun making this, and I would love to do more in the future. My plan is to do an analysis of all the other characters in Mouthwashing and the Pony Express company itself, as it has some very interesting implications about capitalism and like how it affects the story, because they are a big part of why the events happen in the first place, if it wasn't on top of everything that happens to Anya in the story. And it may take some time between each video because I do work on the side. Of course, that's my main thing. Actually, this is my side thing. And I won't be taking any recommendations for the time being. I've got a plan of stuff I want to do, stuff I want to look at. I may put some hints in the future, as you know, my channel has just started, and I can't wait to share it all with you. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, um, comment, share it around, and I will see you in the near but probably far future. See you later. Also, I want to mention that I'm very aware that my voice during most of this video sounds like I'm a news anchor on the BBC. So make fun of that as you will, because I think it's hilarious. I don't understand how people do this naturally. I guess you just get used to it. It's very fun though. It is very funny, and hearing my voices back, me picturing myself in front of a desk looking at a telegraph. I think that's what not telegraph. The the thing you read off of is quite funny too. So right, I better pop off. I got some more videos to make. I think one will be about the young lad who is very sweet and the whole fandom loves, including myself. Bye.